In this video, we will learn 21 things to do after installing Ubuntu Mate. These are things which are specific to Ubuntu Mate or essential things to do after installing Ubuntu. But if you want to learn more, I have a video on 50 things to do after installing Ubuntu, which I will link in the description. And before we get started, to avoid interruption during the rest of the video, now I would like to introduce you the sponsor of this video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community where members get unlimited access to thousands of inspiring classes with hands-on projects and feedback from a community. I recommend you to start with Stuff Picks and Skillshare Originals. You can deepen your existing passions and explore new skills. For example, I recently added a new commenting system to my website, and to do that I had to edit a JavaScript code. But I knew nothing about Java. Thanks to Skillshare course, Web Development Fundamentals JavaScript by Christopher Dott, I was able to learn the basics of JavaScript in a few hours and implement a new commenting system on my website. If you also want to learn JavaScript, I highly recommend you this course. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description will get a free trial of premium membership, so you can explore thousands of useful Skillshare classes. And we will start with the desktop layout. This is one of a few things you can do right from the Ubuntu Mate welcome screen. If you click here on the desktop layout, you will be presented with the 4 most commonly used options. The first one is a traditional Ubuntu Mate look with the top panel and the bottom panel. The second one is Unity-like look, which is called Mutiny here. This is how it looks. You can also try Windows-like look, which is called Read Mode here, with the bottom panel and this kind of menu. And if you like macOS-like look, you can choose Cupertino look. It has a top panel with a global menu here and the bottom panel. There are a few other options which you can explore, but these 4 are the most common one, and I believe most of you will focus on them. For example, I really like Mutiny look, so I will use it for the rest of this video. The second step is to decide on which browser would you like to use. And here again Ubuntu Mate welcome screen will help us. There is a browser button which you can click and install your favorite browser. My favorite browser is Firefox, and I recommend you to use Firefox as well. But I know there are many people who prefer to use Chromium or Google Chrome. Chromium is an open source version of Google Chrome. It has almost exactly the same features as Google Chrome. But still, if you are completely novice Ubuntu user, I recommend you to use Google Chrome. But if you are a little more advanced, then of course install Chromium. And of course, for those of you who like Opera, Vivaldi or Brave, you can install them from here as well. The installation process is very simple. You just click the install button, enter your password, and Ubuntu Mate will install your favorite browser. The next step will be to configure the Update Manager. You can open the Update Manager settings from the menu, but we are going to use the help of Ubuntu Mate welcome screen again. You click here Getting Started, then you go to Updates and Extras, and click Check for updates. Ubuntu Mate will suggest you to install some updates which are available, but before you do that, I recommend you to go to the Settings button and pre-configure your Update Manager. In this very first tab, which is called Ubuntu Software, make sure that you download the updates from the server in your country, which is Sweden for me. In the next tab, you can also enable canonical partner repositories. You would need to enter your password. So this includes some extra software, for example such as Flash Player. The rest you can keep at default, or you can go through the settings and change them if you want. Then you just close it, reload all the cache information, and install the updates. The next essential step is also to check if you need to install any proprietary drivers on your system. For example, if you use a dedicated card, or some Wi-Fi cards may require proprietary drivers to get the best performance. And you can again use the help of Ubuntu Mate welcome screen. You click on Getting Started, here you have a Drivers tab. Here you can check each category and see if any proprietary drivers are suggested for your system. I am suggested to install drivers for my HP printer here, and also it suggests me to install Solar app, which improves the performance of my wireless Logitech MX mouse. So I will install all of these drivers. You can also perform this installation by clicking on this Additional Drivers tab, and Ubuntu Mate will again scan your system and suggest you all available proprietary drivers. Then you just need to select them here and click Apply Changes. They will be automatically installed. Next, you need to reboot your system and make sure everything works right. If you experience any issues or any problems, try other versions of the driver suggested in this menu or revert back to the driver which you used before. And finally, you can also click here Install Firmware Packages, which will also improve performance of your system and will install packages which are specific to your hardware. When everything is installed and everything works correctly, you can proceed to the next step. When the drivers are installed, you also need to make sure that you have installed all necessary codecs to play different media formats. And you can again install them through the welcome screen. You go to Getting Started, Updates and Extra, and here if you scroll down, you will be suggested to install additional codecs. You might have already installed them during the installation if you selected to install third-party apps, but if you didn't, you can install them right from here. There are also additional themes and screensavers, but we will check them later in this video. And after you have done the installation, you can also try to play different media formats and make sure that everything works. Another vital part of the configuration of your system is to configure HiDPI screen. HiDPI screens getting more and more common, and you need to make sure that your Ubuntu is well configured to work with HiDPI screen. And you can do that by going to the menu and opening Control Center. Then you need to open Mate Tweak, go to Windows tab, and here in the HiDPI settings you can manually switch between regular and HiDPI resolution. But I believe in most of the cases Auto Detect option should also work fine, but in case you experience any problem, you know where to change it manually. I don't have a HiDPI screen, so I will keep it at regular, or I can also keep it Auto Detect. It works fine for me. Install language support. This is another step you need to do to complete the configuration of your system, and it can also be done again from the welcome screen. In the Getting Started tab, you have Language and Input tab. If you click on it, and then you click on this Language Support button, it will scan your system and suggest you to install additional packages to improve language support of your system, and I highly recommend you to install these packages. And if you have complex keyboard layouts such as Chinese, Japanese and Korean, you can also install them right from here. I also believe you need to configure your backup right after the installation, so you don't forget to do it in the future. And here, Ubuntu welcome screen will help us again. If we go to Getting Started, Optional Task, here backup is one of the first options which is suggested to do, and I recommend you to do it. You click on it, and then you just need to configure it by clicking on this Create First Backup of your system. Or if you already have a backup, you can restore it from here. But I assume that most of you don't have it. So here you define what you want to backup, and of course all your essential files such as your documents are located in your home folder, while you can exclude trash in your downloads folder. Then you click Forward. Here you can select where you want to backup your system. I showed how to backup your system to the Google Drive in my Ubuntu with the GNOME desktop video, but in this video I will just show you how to backup to the local folder, and I will choose it here. So I actually have a network folder mounted here, which I will select. Then I will create here backup folder, and I will backup everything here. Then I click Forward. You can also encrypt your backup if you're gonna store it, for example, somewhere in the cloud. But if you store it locally, encryption is not necessary. So I will backup it without a password, and that's it. The backup will take quite some time, and everything depends on your system. So backup is completed. But after that, it is very important that you also enable automatic backup here, so you don't forget to make your backups. Enable Firewall. This is an optional step, and it is not necessary. Your Ubuntu Mate is safe enough without a firewall. But I believe it is better to be safe than sorry, and I explained it in my separate video on Linux Firewall. So I recommend you to enable Firewall in your Ubuntu Mate. And you can do it again in Getting Started, Optional Task in the welcome screen, And if you scroll down here, you can click on the firewall, enter your password, and it will open you the application which is called Uncomplicated Firewall. And the simplest thing you can do here is just to enable it. And the default settings to deny incoming and allow outgoing is more than enough for most users. If you use some network folders, for example, if you use Samba, which you can also install from here, you would need to go to the rules and enable ports for those applications. But in most of the cases, you don't need to do that, and you will be safe with this. If you experience any problem or you have difficulties with configuring Firewall, you can always disable it right here. After we have done some vital settings, we can start with tweaking our system, and the first thing you may want to do is to install additional themes. And again, I will use welcome screen here because this is very easy to do, and I believe those who just started using Ubuntu Mate will also use welcome screen here. You go to getting started, updates and extra, and if you scroll down here, you will be able to install additional screensavers and additional themes. And there are also community wallpapers. So let's install everything. You just need to click on the install buttons in these three options. It will take quite some time, but I will speed up this part of the video. After you install additional screensavers, additional themes and additional community wallpapers, you can try them and see which one you like the most. You go to the menu and you open Appearance Settings. And here you can choose between many different themes. I believe this is enough to start, but if you want to customize your Ubuntu Mate even more, please subscribe to this channel. I will make a special video on my favorite themes of Ubuntu Mate. But for now, I think it is enough to start. And for example, my favorite theme here is Arc Darker. This is how it looks. The icon set may not be the best here, so you can customize it even more if you click here on Customize. Then you can select Arc Darker here. You don't need to change Windows border, but you can if you want. But in the icons I would still probably select Ambient Mate. I think it looks better, or maybe even Humanity. Yeah, this Mate icon theme I think looks nice. So I will keep Mate icons, and I will also switch back to my pointer, which is more visible here. So now we have configured the look of system, we can also switch wallpapers here. There are many different wallpapers, like this one looks very nice I think, so I will keep this wallpaper. You can also adjust font and some other interfaces here. To change a screensaver you need to open a separate settings application, which is called Screensavers. And here you can choose between many different screensavers. As you can see, there are plenty of them. Or you can try all of them if you just select random option. So every time your system starts a screensaver, it will randomly pick one of the screensavers. This is my favorite option. So you have now customized your Ubuntu Mate. Disable animation. Ubuntu Mate is considered a light desktop, and if you install it on not very powerful hardware, you may benefit from disabling animation and getting a little bit better performance. And you can do it by going to the Control Center, click on the Mate tweak, go to the Windows tab, and here just disable animation. Now your Ubuntu Mate does not show any animation, but it feels a little faster. Change Windows button placement. By default, Ubuntu Mate has a Windows button placed on the left, and I think this is the best location. But I know that many of users prefer to have buttons on the right, as it is in Windows. And you can also switch to the right placement of your buttons in Ubuntu Mate. You go to the Control Center, click on Mate Tweaks, go to Windows, and here you just need to switch from left to right. And now the buttons are on the right. But I will keep it on the left, because I think it is more efficient, since we have the panel on the left, and we also have menu and the buttons on the left, so everything is more ergonomic. But of course, if you have a habit of right buttons, you can switch them here. Center New Windows. By default in Ubuntu Mate, if you open a new window, it is placed randomly on your desktop. I don't like that behavior. I would like all my new windows to be opened right in the center. And to enable such a feature, you go to Control Center, click on Windows here, Placement, and select Center New Windows. Now, whenever I open a new window, it is placed right in the center. If you also prefer this kind of behavior, now you know how to enable it. install Synaptic Package Manager. Although Ubuntu Software Boutique is one of the best in the market in my view, and you can install packages from here, it is very stable, very reliable, I still prefer to have Synaptic as another option in case I need to search for specific library, for example, or there are some packages which are not listed in the Software Boutique, but you can easily find them in the Synaptic Package Manager. And also using Synaptic Package Manager is a little bit easier than using the command line. So I recommend you to install Synaptic Package Manager in addition to the Software Boutique, and you can actually use Software Boutique to install Synaptic. Just search for it and click Install. Then you need to go to this button and apply changes. Enter the password, wait a few minutes, and when installation is finished you can open it. And this is how it looks. It is not the most nice looking package manager, but it is very useful because, as you can see, all packages which are available or which are installed on your system are listed here. For example, you can see all available packages and libraries. And I will show you one of the benefits of Synaptic Package Manager in the next thing to do after installing Ubuntu Mate. Stay tuned. Install Microsoft Fonts. If you need to work with the documents which have been produced on a Windows machine, most likely they will use Microsoft fonts such as Times New Roman, Arial, Comic Sans, but unfortunately these fonts are not available in Ubuntu Mate by default. You won't be able to find them in your LibreOffice. Luckily, you can easily install them, and this is where Synaptic Package Manager becomes very handy. You need to go to the search and search for MS Core Fonts and install this package. Right click on it, mark for installation, mark and click apply. You need to accept the license, then click next, and the Microsoft fonts will be installed on your system. You can also tick this automatically close after the installation, open LibreOffice, and Arial, Times New Roman and other Microsoft fonts are available on your system. And also here I would like to show you the trick, because see, we have installed this package through Synaptic Package Manager. However, if you search for Microsoft fonts in your Software Boutique, you won't find it here. So this is one of the advantages of using Synaptic Package Manager. Enable Redshift. Redshift reduces the amount of blue light at night, which is better for your eyes, and it will also help you to fall asleep easily. Ubuntu Mate has Redshift pre-installed. You just need to enable it, and to do that you can go to the menu, search for Redshift, and open it. When it starts, it will show up here in the tray icon. You can make sure that it is enabled, and you can also click here to auto start it. So next time when your system starts, Redshift will be started with your system, and it will reduce the amount of blue light on your screen. This is a small but very useful application. Enable Clipboard Manager. Clipboard Manager is another useful application which saves the clipboard history of your system and allows you to go back several steps and recover the text which you copied like 1 hour ago, for example. And to install such an application in Ubuntu Mate, you need to open Software Boutique and search for the app which is called Diodong. Install it, open it, and after the launch it will show up here in your tray. And if you click on it and go to the preferences, you will see some very simple preferences here, for example like how many items would you like to remember, and I usually increase it to 100 here. You can also include images in the clipboard history, but I usually don't do that. You can configure your hotkeys, and there are also possibilities of installing additional plugins. So now you have your clipboard history here. And if I copy any text, it will automatically appear here, as you can see. Oh, this is another small and useful application. Enable pull-down terminal. In one of my previous videos, I showed my favorite Linux terminal, which is Yak Yak, and it is a drop-down terminal for Plasma 5 desktop. I highly recommend you to watch that video, you will see all the possibilities of that terminal. But in Ubuntu Mate, you can get the same functionality with a built-in Mate terminal. You just need to enable it. And to do that, you need to go to the Control Center, open Mate Tweak, go to the panel, And here you have an option to enable pull down terminal. You click on it, and next time when you press key F12, a terminal will appear at the top of your screen. Then you press it again and it disappears. So this is very useful. You can quickly type some command here, and while it's running you can do some other things here on your desktop. Then you press F12 again and it appears at the top of your screen. I think this feature is very useful. And what is particularly good about it, it is built in, you don't need to install any additional packages to have it. So we are approaching the end of this list. Another small thing you can do with your Ubuntu Mate is to add favorite applications. And it depends on what desktop layout you use. As you can see, I use here a Mutiny desktop layout, so I have my favorite applications here. But let me switch back to the standard layout. And here, as you can see, there are no favorite items listed, but you can add some favorite items here. For example, I usually add Synaptic Package Manager as my favorite application. So next time when I open it, I have Synaptic right here. I click on it and I can quickly open it. You can add many other applications to your favorite in this menu. It is also very useful for Windows-like layout of Ubuntu Mate. If you have Mutiny layout or Cupertino layout, the favorite apps will also show here, which is also useful, but it is not as important because you have a panel here where you can add all your favorite apps. Hide blank menu. This tip is specific for Cupertino layout. If this is your layout, you may want to remove this button which is located here. It shows you all the settings of this dock panel here, but you may not like to have this icon all the time, and you can also open these settings from the menu. So to disable it, you need to install an additional app which is called dconf editor, and to do that we will use Synaptic Package Manager, search for dconf, here it is, install it. After the installation, open it and search for blank here. Here it is. Then click on Docs, Doc 1, scroll down here, and you need to disable this option which is called Show Dock Item. Now the blank icon has disappeared. The 21st thing to do after installing Ubuntu Mate is to optimize your Ubuntu system. This is an optional step, you don't have to do it, Ubuntu Mate is well configured by default. But if you are already well familiar with Linux and you feel comfortable using command line, I recommend you to do it. You will get little more performance out of your Ubuntu Mate system. So let's start first with optimizing swap usage. If you have more than 8 gigs of RAM, I recommend you to enable this option, so your system will use RAM a little bit more extensively, and thus it will perform a little better. I have a separate video where I explain what is Linux swap and why changing swappiness value has impact on performance of your system. And to do that we will press F12 to open the terminal, which we configured in the previous step, and check the default value of our swappiness. To do that you need to run the command cat proc sysvm swappiness, and the default value is 60, but we can change that value to 10, so your system will use more RAM before it starts writing files into your hard drive. And to change it you need to run the command sudo pluma atc sysctl.conf. You need to enter your password, and it will open this file in your text editor. You scroll down to the end of the file, press enter a few times, and here you need to add the line vm swappiness equal 10. Then you save this file, close it, reboot your system. After the reboot, open the terminal and check the swappiness value again. Now it is 10, so your system will use little more RAM before it starts writing files to your swap partition, which is slower than your RAM. In addition to optimizing your swap, you can also optimize the performance of your hard drive. If you use an HDD drive and not SSD drive, you can get some performance if you enable drive cache. And to do that you need to go to the menu, Disks, select your current disk where you have your system installed, go to this menu, go to drive settings, write cache, and enable it here. So if you still use HDD, you can gain some performance boost with these settings, but if you are running your Ubuntu Mate on an SSD, there is no need to enable this option. If you run Ubuntu Mate on an SSD drive, you don't need to do anything, it is already well optimized for performance. I hope these 21 things to do after installing Ubuntu were useful, but there are more things you can do to your system, and I show some of those things in a separate video on 50 things to do after installing Ubuntu, which you can also apply to your Ubuntu Mate. For example, you can enable Netflix support in your Firefox, you can change the layout of your LibreOffice, you can install some applications to clean your Ubuntu system, and you can also learn how to test your microphone, your web camera, and how to connect your Android phone to your Ubuntu. There are many useful things in that video, so click on it and watch it if you want to improve your system even more. Also, don't forget to check out Skillshare website. There are many useful and interesting classes, and you can get access to them if you click the link in the description. Thank you for watching!